This is a book that every man needs to own. You know why? Because it shows men in the modern age how not to be used by women for, money or resources or attention or validation unless she's your wife. And it was written by Myron Gaines. I think he has a podcast called the Fresh and Fit podcast on YouTube. But anyways, yeah. Why women deserve less. And they do deserve less in the modern age. These are not the women of like the 1910s and the 1900s, because I know most men, they're still caught up on the, the fact that we have to be traditional with women nowadays here in the USA. No, because women in the USA typically are not traditional. They usually have a huge high body count. They usually like to have their fun in their 20s, and then they want to settle down with some simp dude in their 30s, okay? But they got their hoe phase in their 20s. And that's what this book basically talks about. It talks about the old contract that we had with women, like the thousands of years prior, where the man was the provider and he took care of his family, and the woman stayed at home and took care of her children, his biological children. But the new contract has liberated women since the 1960s. It's liberated women from all that shit, responsibility and all that. And they can basically just fuck whoever they want, and they can, obviously they can, but most women don't like to fucking face up to those consequences of that, like the single mom epidemic that we have here in the USA, where apparently men are expected to step up and take care of another man's kids, even though it's not his fucking job to begin with, if they're not his biological children. The new contract is, women can, have sex and do whatever the fuck they want, which by any right, of course they can, but but most of them don't like to face the repercussions of that. And that's what this book is talking about. Why women deserve less. So when you go out on a date, gentlemen, when you go out on a date with a woman, you don't take her out to a goddamn dinner at a fucking fancy restaurant or some bullshit like that, okay? You don't do that. That's something that you did with women in the 1900s when you're trying to court a woman. When you're trying to fancy her and things like that, because usually the women in the 1900s were virgins, and you had to meet the dad, and you had to meet the family before you took her out and you courted her. That's not modern women, gentlemen. That is not modern women. So you don't do that. What you do is you take them out. If you're going to date a woman and take her out on a first date or a second date or a third date, is you take her out for coffee or a drink at a bar somewhere. One drink or one cup of coffee, and that's it. You don't fucking shell out all this fucking money and buy her roses and flowers and all this stupid bullshit. Okay, that is something that you only do with either a wife or a woman from the 1900s. You don't do that with modern women. With modern women, okay? Because modern women, if you do that, they're going to see you as a fucking simp, goddamn loser. Oh, I can take advantage of this guy. I might not like this guy. I might not be into him, but I still want to string him along, put him in the friend zone, and use him for money and attention, validation, and resources. Sorry, my grandfather clock in the background. And that's what this book is always talking about. I mean, just look up his podcast, bros. Look it up, the Fresh and Fit podcast. That's why I bought this book, because I saw so much similarity in what I already knew about modern women. It's that you don't spend money on a female unless she's your wife, or you're in a really committed long-term relationship. Like me personally, I don't ever want to fucking get married in the USA, because I don't want to fucking risk having to give up my goddamn house if the girl gets bored or sad. Because, 90% of fucking divorces are filed by women. So if I got married, I don't want to have to fucking deal with my wife coming up to me one day saying, I'm bored, I'm unhappy, so I'm leaving. Even though, like I said, women nowadays in the USA, majority of them do not know how to be wives. Because wife and husband, it ain't about fucking happiness. It ain't about fucking happiness. Marriage is not about happiness. It's about duty to family and duty to your spouse and raising children for the next generation. It ain't about your fucking personal happiness. That's why marriages lasted all the generations previous to the 1960s, because women understood how to be compatible with men. They understood that. But nowadays, it's me. I'm not happy. I want a divorce. Like I said, 90% of divorces are filed by women. So this book teaches you, gentlemen, how to avoid ending up getting divorced from some psychotic, depressed female that, gets bored after 5 years of marriage and is like, I still want your money though. I still want your money and I'm gonna take your kids because the family court system still favors me as the actual parent better than you, regardless. That's what this book tells you. This is what this book shows you. It talks about the old contract, I think I already said this, and the new contract. The old contract was the past thousands of years between the relationship with men and women. And the new contract is the contract since women have been liberated with, the birth control pill and, sexual liberation since the 1960s. And men have to protect themselves from those vindictive, gold-digging bitches. I know, a lot of my friends have gone through that. You wouldn't even be surprised, bros, how many of my fucking friends have been divorced, lost their kid, even though they were the better parent, the family court still sided with the mother. And the mother was usually on drugs, but they didn't have proof of it, but everyone else knew that the mother was on drugs. One of my sisters was in that same position. Luckily, the dad ended up getting the kids. I'm not going to name names. Completely different situation. I digress. But yeah, you got to protect yourself, bros. You have to protect yourselves from the modern woman. The modern woman in 2023. Because when you think about it, marriage is basically a contract between a man, a woman, and the state. Now, don't get me with the whole gay side of it. I don't know anything about that, so it's probably a completely different thing. I have no knowledge of that. So if you want to look that side of marriage up, be my guest. But I know nothing about that. I digress. So yeah, the family courts usually give custody of the children to the woman, to the mother, not the father. Even if the father is the better parent. It's all stacked up against us, gentlemen. It's all stacked up against us, and men need to understand that. That's why when you choose and find a wife that you want to marry, you have to be super duper 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 sure that she would be a good mother to your children. Because if you fuck that up and you make that mistake, it will haunt you for the rest of your life, gentlemen. Trust me, okay? Everyone knows this. Women control sex, men control commitment. We decide who gets married and who doesn't. Women control who has sex and who doesn't. So hold on to your power, gentlemen. Hold on to your power and make sure you don't turn a hoe into a housewife. Anyways, Braulio's out. Peace.